When it comes to setting up a shop, we all know you need some tools, but that can add up pretty quickly. Over the last year, we've been filling up this toolbox with stuff from Harbor Freight to Tecton and everything in between. So we're going to show you our top 5 toolbox investments that we made. No fluff, no sponsorships, just stuff we use every day. Up first is one of my favorite tools that I really didn't expect to like so much, because in all honesty, I only bought it because they were on sale. These are the Harbor Freight Nano Sockets with the Astro Tools long flex head ratcheting wrench. You might be wondering, what is a Nano Socket? It's a special socket that'll pop right into this specific Astro Tools ratchet, and it makes a super low profile setup. To me, it makes brake jobs way easier because you could just reach around calipers, get some tough bolts and whatnot. You get a ton of leverage, so if you're dealing with the rusty cars like we do up here, it makes it way easier. On top of that, there's also odd scenarios you might find yourselves into where you're using like a large 1-inch socket, like on the power steering we dealt with on the Suburban. There were some fittings we had to pop off, and you know those areas can be kind of tight. And if you're dealing with a big 1-inch fastener, they're usually pretty hard to get off. This made it way easier because, again, you're up in a tight area, you have a nice flex head to get the ratchet wherever you want it, and a ton of leverage to break it loose. So I didn't think this was going to be so useful, but it has paid for itself in time tenfold. So this is my Nano setup, but there's a lot of different ways you could go about this. Astro makes a couple different options for this ratcheting wrench. This is the long flex head 22mm, which is going to work with the 1/2-inch drive sockets, which I'm a fan of because you could throw these in a 1/2-inch impact, have a nice compact setup, especially if you have one of the new Milwaukee stubby impacts. Another reason is these go on sale all the time with Harbor Freight. These sockets you can get from Ulsa, Matco, a bunch of other places, Astro themselves. They all come on a rail. I like that the Harbor Freight ones come on foam. So for me, the selling point was I'm a sucker for foam, and I got them for 35% off. So combining all that together, it made this a super affordable package, and it was hard to beat. And one last point with this setup that might be a little controversial for you guys is I think it's very competitive to the new Icon and Snap-on box end flex head long ratchets. They're super expensive, they are great, but I think you're getting like 90% of the functionality out of this setup as you would those for a fraction of the price. Up next is something that's more useful in a general sense, and that's ratchet and socket sets. Of course, anyone setting up a shop, you need a ton of sockets. And this kit has you covered for the most part. You're gonna get a 1/2-inch drive, 3/8 drive, and 1/4-inch ratchet, a variety of extensions, and a ton of bits and sockets. So you're getting your Torx bits, your Allens, some Phillips and flatheads. You don't get e-Torx. I had to get that separate, unfortunately. But for what we do, we don't use them all that much. You get a great variety of shallow sockets and a lot of deeps as well. There's a couple skips on the bigger stuff, like with the 1/2-inch drive, like there's no 11mm. There might be a couple more missing, but I really haven't run into an issue because you get an 11 with the 1/4-inch drive and the 3/8 drive. To me, this is a great value because you're getting all this for $250 retail. I wound up getting it on sale for $150, so to me that's pretty hard to say no to, where you're getting all this value with organization included. Sure, the foam might be a little bit of a waste of space on the deep sockets because I'm sure if you stand them up, you could probably cut this in half. But for what we're doing, I think it's great because you know what's missing, it keeps you organized, you could find everything really quick with how it's labeled. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. That's considering these 2 pieces, in my opinion. This 3rd piece was included in the kit. It's a little bit wasteful in my opinion because you're just holding your Allen keys. You have a wrench set that's missing a lot of skips, like on the metric side, it's going 8, 10, 11, 12, 15, 18. Not that great in my opinion, but we let our Tecton wrenches take care of that one. I would buy this kit again, I would recommend it. Let me know what you guys think. Up next is one of my absolute favorite Milwaukee tools, the M12 cutoff wheel. To me, this is an easy winner because it is way more convenient than any pneumatic option I've ever had. I had a Husky one, I loved it, I beat that thing to death, and it never quit. But it was just always so inconvenient being pneumatic because there's all the setup, you gotta make sure you have air in your compressor, you gotta run a line to whatever you're doing. With this guy, you just get a charged battery and you're off to the races. So to me, the convenience of this tool just makes it so worth it. Plus, it's pretty powerful in my opinion. I know some people complain about the M12 tools, but I've used this thing to cut chassis, cut body panels, and even slot fasteners when I managed to strip them out. So to me, it's super versatile. We use it from cars to also whatever we've got in the print room. I can't imagine not having this tool. So if you have the Milwaukee lineup especially, I would heavily recommend getting one. I'm sure you guys have all heard of or seen or own the dollar pick set from Harbor Freight. If you disagree with us picking this as a highlight, just unsubscribe right now. Because this is one of my favorite tools, if I'm gonna be honest. Because at $1, how could you beat it? I think they retail for $2. They're always on sale for $1. And even at $2, I'd buy it all day long. And somehow, this has a lifetime warranty. Personally, I haven't used it yet, but I did bend this one, so I guess we'll see soon if we will get a warranty replacement on that. When it comes to a dollar tool, this one's hard to beat. At this point, I'm sure you guys know I'm a sucker for Harbor Freight, but this is less about the Quinn wrenches we have over here and more so about the 3D printed organization, because that's something we made in-house. So if you guys don't know, check out our other videos. We have a whole print farm making automotive parts for you guys. But this is more of a fun project for myself where I didn't like the organization it came with, so I want something a little more compact and something you could see what wrench you're grabbing way easier. So here I did black for the metric, red for the standard, and just white sizes right on top so you can see it really easily, which is similar to what some of the other organization companies do. The nice thing about this is it's not limited to the wrenches. You could do it for screwdrivers, pliers, sockets. The options are really limitless to whatever you could think of. Let us know, should we get more into the tool organization game for you guys? We're open to it, so let me know what you think. Otherwise, there's plenty of things you could download off of Thingiverse. Maybe you want to learn CAD and figure it out yourself, or buy your own printer. Either way, you could pay someone to do it or figure it out yourself. This is a great option to get custom organization for your toolbox. When we're talking about our toolbox investments and where we went right, it'd be a disservice to not talk about the toolbox itself. This is a 72 by 24 Husky heavy duty, and I am super thrilled with this purchase. It's been a great toolbox to us. It has been keeping us super organized, and it just looks great in the shop. It's a phenomenal price too. We got this thing for $1,100. I think it retails for around $1,400 now, but we got it on a good sale. Also, please note that this does not include the cabinet. We purchased that separately, and I'll talk about that more a little bit later. Especially when it comes to automotive stuff, if you're considering a toolbox like this, you're probably also considering the US General. I think they're very comparable, but there's some definite pros and cons between the two. The Husky is 24 inches deep, while the US General is 22 inches deep. So you get a little more depth from the Husky, but the US General has a little more height. So when you're talking about actual space, I'm sure it's fairly comparable. One of my biggest complaints about the Husky though is you only have one full length drawer, which is great for sockets, but it kind of sucks that you don't have an extra one for wrenches, which the US General does have. So you'd have a full length here that's probably similar depth, and then you'd have a second shallow one that's meant for your wrenches. So the way we broke that up is we have a metric drawer and a standard drawer, which works fine, and I have no real complaints about it. It just would have been nice to have a second full-length drawer. Otherwise, the US General will have a power tool drawer, which is similar to this for putting like your drills, impacts, stuff like that. And on top of it, they have a drawer with a power strip in it so you could have your charger inside. That's getting into the weeds of it a little bit because we do have a power supply on this side as well as one on the cabinet. So we have plenty of spaces to still plug in your phone, plug in your charger, and do whatever you gotta do. I think the biggest point to mention though is the price difference. The US General is like around $1,700, $1,800, and since we got this for $1,100, you're talking about what, a $700, $800 price difference? When it comes to just the toolbox itself, that much money can go a long way in filling up this whole box. So unless you are dying for those features in the US General, I think this is a phenomenal buy where you could save a lot of money, still get a great toolbox, and go a long way with it. Otherwise, the last thing I'd really like to mention on is the US General is way more modular. And that's something I wish I knew before jumping into this. The toolboxes will bolt together, the lockers just slide right on, and you could get a hutch or whatever other combination. And it's just goes together so much easier. Like I mentioned with this cabinet not being included and I had to purchase it separately, it also wasn't meant for this toolbox. So I had to drill holes into both the cabinet and the toolbox, add some nutserts because nothing lined up, which wasn't a big deal, especially for some guys that work in a shop. We should be able to modify a couple things, but it still sucks. You're buying brand new stuff and you gotta cut it up. Weigh your options. I'm still pretty happy with this setup, but let me know what you guys think. I know we said we had 5 tools for you guys, but I have a 6th bonus one because I felt like this wrench extender was way too cheap and way too useful to not include. It's a pretty simple and straightforward tool. It just takes whatever wrench you got and extends it quite a bit. I'm sure you could see you get quite a bit more leverage, and you also get the opportunity to put a 1/2-inch drive at the end of it. But in my opinion, if you're doing that, you're probably either asking to break something or doing something you shouldn't be. But this thing's been super useful to me because it's broken loose some of those pesky O2 sensors, because we all know they love to just weld to themselves and be a real bear to get off. On top of that, it's really good for tight areas. For example, on the Suburban supercharger tensioner, it's in between a fan shroud and the engine itself, so you don't have that much space to really work with. So it's a lot easier if you get a box end wrench down in there, but it's really hard to get enough leverage on it to actually pull that tight tensioner. So you throw one of these bad boys on with it and it comes off no problem, and you don't have to disassemble the truck, so it saves a ton of time. But I got this thing for 20 bucks on Amazon, and we'll shoot you a link so you guys can find it nice and easy. But to me, it's a no-brainer to throw in your toolbox. Of all the tools we recommended today, my biggest recommendation is take your time, wait for sales. Because we decked out this entire toolbox with things mostly on sale. So make sure you wait for Home Depot deals, sign up for a Harbor Freight newsletter, and just check out the various online retailers, because you can get a pretty awesome setup without breaking the bank. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below the best tool deal you've ever gotten. That's all for today. We'll see you next time.